Back in England, I went back to my cake factory. James went back to his ER to graduate and start his career in emergency medicine. But Yad Vashem did not leave our minds. A few months later, we went with our parents and we drove across Europe. We wanted to go and visit the places where the Holocaust had happened. The four of us took the car and we just drove. I had spoken on returning from Israel to a Holocaust survivor. His name was Ben Helfgott, of blessed memory, later Sir Ben Helfgott. I had gone to visit Ben and didn't realize that it wasn't Ben's normal way of doing things, that he would tell his own personal story. I went to visit him because I wanted to learn more about how do I learn about the Holocaust, and he was a Holocaust survivor and led something called the 45 Aid Society. I believe that he might help me to find my way as I was trying to discover how do I learn more about the Holocaust now that I'm back in England. And Ben said something very powerful to me on that first meeting. He said, "Stephen, you need to go to Poland." Now I knew, that the Nazis had put their death camps in Poland and that there were 3 million Jews in Poland that were virtually all murdered. But he said something to me very profound. He said, to me, Poland is like one large Jewish cemetery. All my family are there somewhere, most of them murdered by the Nazis during the Holocaust. He said, but I can't tell you where in most cases or when. And so when I walk across that landscape, it's like everywhere is a Jewish cemetery for my family and for all the other families that were lost there. You need to see that and you need to understand that. And so we drove, and two things came out of that are also milestones in this life's journey. The first of them is that when I arrived at Auschwitz and stood on the line at Auschwitz-Birkenau, I knew what to expect. It was overwhelming, don't get me wrong, but I had seen the images. I had been acculturated to what to expect, that the gate tower and the building and the line that went in where the trains had come and offloaded the Jews for mass murder. But what I was not ready for was the absence of the cemetery that Ben had referred to. In fact, Auschwitz is a large Jewish cemetery, and my friend Professor Jonathan Weber talks a lot about that. But I looked around and said, well, where are the names? Where are the dates of birth and the dates of death? Where are the headstones, the matzevas, as they're known, the headstones? There's nothing there. 1 million, more than 1 million. Jews were murdered there, and their names are not inscribed in the Book of Life or on their own individual headstones. They went up the chimneys and blew away as smoke in the wind. And it was the sacrilegiousness of not only the murder, but the sacrilegious nature of obfuscating, obliterating their lives, their families, their names. And if you do not have a name, who are you? It was winter when we were there, and I remember there was virtually nobody there. It was the end of January. It was snow lying on the ground, and I remember just looking there with what Ben had said to me in my mind. It's like a large Jewish cemetery, and thinking, so where is the cemetery? Where is the dignity? Where is the life? A cemetery is a place of life. The dead are buried there, but it honors the lives of those who are buried there. In this cemetery, Auschwitz-Birkenau, it was the desecration of life, the obliteration of who they were as individuals and people and the beauty of their lives. The second thing was how profoundly moved I was driving around the Polish countryside. I don't know, we had some little guidebook. I don't even know where we got it. It was a slim volume that as you went to each town and village, it was like just a paragraph. There were 10,000 people in this town, 5,000 were Jewish, there was a synagogue, there was a mikveh, there was a cemetery. It was just like a snapshot of each of these little towns. And, we were thumbing through, okay, we're in this place, whatever it's called now, Rzeszów or Buchach or whatever. Okay, let's go to B's, found it. And then looking at the paragraph and then trying to piece it together with the map and understand what had happened, getting out of the car. And of course, where did we go? To the cemetery. And what I discovered on that trip to Poland that time was not only that Ben was right, that it was like a large Jewish cemetery, but that it was only cemeteries that you could find the heritage and the history, many of which had been knocked over. The headstones were on their sides. They were overgrown. But it was the absence, it was the complete absence of Jewish life in what had been these bustling, busy towns. I don't want to talk about this with nostalgia. These were communities that had to work hard and live hard to survive in these communities. So it's not a nostalgia, but there was beauty about who they were and how they lived their lives and the rhythm of their lives and the fact that they flourished in spite of everything that they were going through, just in ordinary everyday life long before the Nazis appeared. They made their lives in these towns and villages. They prayed there, they learned there, they educated their children, they went to the mikveh, they built their businesses. They were religious people and secular people and those in between. There were Zionists and others. It was just a thriving, variegated, living, breathing community. And then one town after the next village, after the next town. What we found on that journey was nothing. Or nobody, more to the point. Just remnants, fragments of a synagogue here that's now a library, or a lost cemetery, or some kind of remnants of these communities. I hate to put this in these words, but that's when I discovered just how successful the Holocaust had been. I had in my post-World War II, post-Holocaust mind, well, of course, people survived and they came through the camps and then they rebuilt their lives and they moved to Israel or they moved to the States, and these survivors built their communities and life went on. Do you know it is 2025 and the Jewish community has only just now, 80 years after the Holocaust, got back to the same total number of Jews in the world as there was in 1939. Talk about genocide. That's what genocide does. It decimates you to the point at which you cannot even revive. 80 years it has taken just to repopulate the Jewish community to the same number of people as there was 85 years ago when the war broke out. And that's what we saw in those towns and villages around Poland. And as we drove around, we realized that whatever it was that we were going to do in England, what we were seeing there in Poland at that time needed, and what we were feeling in those places needed to be translated so that our compatriots and our peers could understand that too.